Hi, this is William with the Grand Duke Dmitri Diary series. You get just a glimpse of Dmitri and his son Paul behind me there. This is the diary entry of the 16th of February, 1921. It's Wednesday in Copenhagen, of course, and I found a couple of icon cards today. I was looking around for an icon of a different kind, and I happened to find these. I must have bought them at the Russian Orthodox Church on the Rue Daru in Paris, which was, I don't know now if it's under the Moscow Patriarchate, but for a long time it was part of the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia and may still be. So this is Grand Duchess Elizabeth, who raised Dmitri during his teenage years. It's clearly a photograph of the actual icon, and she must have built a church somewhere. Otherwise, she wouldn't be holding this church. So, and then there's this one, a little dusty, another depiction of Nicholas II, Alexandra, and their children wearing traditional Byzantine or Muscovite based on Byzantine clothing. Okay, so that's cool. I'm glad I found those. All right. What did we have yesterday? Yesterday we had the short diary entry about poor Maria Fyodorovna having another heart attack or some kind of health crisis. So Dmitri went to the palace to lend his support to his cousin Ksenia, who he described as rather distraught, even though Maria Fyodorovna was getting better. All right, and another short entry today, so here we go. I have to confess that I've completely forgotten what I did that day. I just know that I took a walk with Olga in the morning and then went to the palace for lunch at the invitation of the Queen Dowager. That was rather fun. The old lady received me very nicely and pompously, and for the sake of propriety and style, started off speaking to me in French. Good-hearted Gustav and his sisters Tura and Dagmar were there. Lunch was in the Danish style, i.e. you had to wander around the dining room and help yourself from various dishes, and there wasn't much food and it was bad. In the end, the old queen livened up a little and things became less formal. We descended from the heights of polite phrases in the French dialect and began speaking English. Around 3 o'clock, we parted as friends. I think I took an afternoon walk with Lucia, and that's all he remembers, apparently, of that day. There must not have been anything going on in the evening. And recall that he's writing this, between about 10 days and 2 weeks after the events described here had actually occurred. So that's why sometimes he doesn't remember things precisely. But certainly the Queen Dowager made a big impression on him. So she was she was born Princess Louise of Sweden. At the time of this meeting with Dmitri, she was 70 or 71, I think. Maybe 69, I don't know. She was born in 1851. Okay. So at some point that year, she was turning 70. She was the wife of the deceased Danish king Frederick VIII and the mother of the current king at that time, who was Christian X. She also had another son who was a king, King Håkon VII of Norway. She had 8 children in all, and 3 of them were there at the lunch. The 3 who were not married, I think at that time none of them were married, Gustav, Tora, and Dagmar. I'm using Dmitri. Dmitri calls her Tora. Her name was spelled Thyra, but he writes it what I assume to be phonetically. I assume he heard it as Tora, so he wrote it as Tora. So I'm going with that pronunciation. And Dagmar, I know, is pronounced differently from how it looks, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Gustav, I think, is Gustav, right? Whether you're in Germany or Sweden or Denmark. Okay, so I had a look at her. She was not what you would call pretty, but she has a very interesting face. She does have a face that's attractive in the sense that you think, this is an intelligent person with a sense of humor, and yeah, not better that than being beautiful and superficial, although not all beautiful people, of course, are superficial. And apparently she had both sides to her, that she could be fun and mischievous and down to earth, even to the point of offending people. But she could also be very impressive on occasions of state. And it's so interesting that on this occasion, she is receiving Dmitri in this very ceremonial way. I mean, I don't know what she had heard about him or what she expected. You would think that she would have known from Gustav, Tora, and Dagmar that Dmitri was not that kind of person who expected people to stand on ceremony to a large extent. And when he says she received me very nicely and pompously, what does he mean by nicely? That's sometimes a difficult word in Russian to translate, because it can mean sweet, it can be nice as we use it in American English. I suppose in this instance, I haven't seen it that way before, but it seems like maybe courteously. And I think by pompous, he doesn't mean like really sort of irritatingly affected. I think he just means that she's doing it in the grand style. So what would you say? Ceremoniously. Kind of has some negative connotations too. Anyway, so they start off on a kind of a strange footing where she's very formal. And she's even speaking to him in French, and he qualifies that by saying polite phrases in the French dialect. What the heck dialect is he talking about? French isn't a dialect, it has dialect. But maybe he means some kind of old-fashioned courtly French. That's what I would guess. Maybe the kind of French you would have had at court or in the diplomatic corps. Not just the kind of vernacular French that he's used to speaking in Paris. Yeah, that must be what he means. Okay, and food. Dmitri isn't a very food-oriented person, but he usually has an opinion on food, and here he doesn't like it. There wasn't much of it, and it was bad. And he didn't like having to walk around and serve himself, so... oh well. But it doesn't put him in a bad mood or anything like that. And by the end of lunch, the old queen has seen that he's kind of a kindred spirit, let us say. So she's relaxed, she's lively, and they really start enjoying themselves. They speak English, and he tells us that that they parted as friends. Around 3 o'clock, we parted as friends. So that's very nice, isn't it? I like that. I'm not sure I've heard him use that expression before, we parted as friends. She would die incidentally in about 5 years' time in 1926. So actually, the Dowager Empress, Maria Fyodorovna, would outlive her despite her precarious health. And yeah, I just think this is a really nice diary entry. Apparently he hadn't met her before. Apparently she thought that a Russian Grand Duke, despite being in exile, was a figure to be taken seriously. But they got to know each other, and they both had that sort of mischievous, good-humored side to themselves, and they became friends. And I wish we knew more about what they discussed and how things had gone. But and it's interesting, just in passing, that he refers to Gustav as good Gustav. I've translated it as good-hearted Gustav. The word he uses is just good, dobry Gustav, good Gustav. But I think you can't really say that in English. Yeah. What would if I said that about one of my friends or relatives? Good Eric. No, I think you kind of have to say good-hearted. Sorry, I'm being very odd today. But yeah, I really like this diary entry. The next diary entry will be longer, for the 17th, and it will be have some big social occasions. But the thing that Dmitri will really focus on, and that I really like about it, is that he is taken to visit a writing school that has been founded by a man who was a Russian cavalry officer and who was an alumnus of the same school that Dmitri had gone to, the cavalry academy. And so Dmitri went to see the place and was a bit scandalized by it here and there, that there were women there taking lessons, and they were wearing, God forbid, men's riding outfits. And, I don't know anything about horses, but if you do know anything about horses, you'll probably like it, because he talks about the method and various things like that. So it makes it an interesting diary entry. So do come back for that. I'm not sure if it will be within the next 24 hours or if I'll have to postpone it by a day, but we'll get to it, and I hope to see you then. Bye.